Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a forceful and emotional address reflecting on Israel's recent conflict with Iran and the ongoing battle against Hamas in Gaza. He began by saying Israel's 12-day war with Iran, which I renamed Operation Rising Lion. That's from the Bible. This 12-day war will go down in the annals of military history. His tone was both solemn and proud as he described the operation that he claimed changed the course of events in the region. He continued praising the performance of Israeli and American forces, saying, "Our daring pilots neutralized Iran's missile defenses and took control of the skies over Tehran." And you saw this. Israeli fighter pilots and American B-2 pilots bombed Iran's nuclear enrichment sites. The Prime Minister took a moment to acknowledge the United States' role in the strikes, emphasizing the importance of the alliance. "I want to thank President Trump for his bold and decisive action. President Trump and I promised to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons, and we delivered on that promise." Netanyahu underscored the significance of this achievement by saying, "We removed an existential threat to Israel and a mortal threat to the civilized world. We lifted a dark cloud that could have claimed millions and millions of lives." His words resonated with the audience, drawing applause and affirming the high stakes that he framed as central to Israel's security and the safety of many nations. Yet he cautioned against complacency, warning that Iran's ambitions were far from extinguished. But ladies and gentlemen, we must remain vigilant. We must remain absolutely clear-minded and vigilant. We must not allow Iran to rebuild its military nuclear capacities. Iran's stockpiles of enriched uranium, these stockpiles must be eliminated. And tomorrow, UN Security Council sanctions on Iran must be snapped back. His call to action signaled that while a major threat had been contained, the danger was ongoing and required international resolve. Turning his attention to Israel's resilience and the challenges it continues to face, Netanyahu said, "Thanks to the resolve of our people, the courage of our soldiers, and the bold decisions we took, Israel rebounded from its darkest day to deliver one of the most stunning military comebacks in history." The statement drew applause, highlighting a sense of national pride in Israel's recovery after hardship. However, the Prime Minister made it clear that the conflict was far from over, but we're not done yet. The final elements, the final remnants of Hamas are holed up in Gaza City. They vow to repeat the atrocities of October 7th again and again and again, no matter how diminished their forces. That is why Israel must finish the job. That is why we want to do so as fast as possible. His remarks then shifted to one of the most tragic and defining events in recent Israeli history, the attacks of October 7th. Netanyahu stated, "Much of the world no longer remembers October 7th, but we remember. Israel remembers October 7th. He paused, adding a symbolic gesture to ensure the memory of that day would not fade. "Well, I'll tell you, you can remember October 17th too. You see this large pin here? It's a QR code. What I ask you to do is hold up your phones, zoom in, and you too will see why we fight and why we must win. It's all in here." His tone grew more somber and intense as he recounted the horrors committed by Hamas during the attack. On October 7th, Hamas carried out the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. They slaughtered 1,200 innocent people, including over 40 Americans and foreign nationals from dozens of countries represented here. They beheaded men. They raped women. They burnt babies alive. They burnt babies alive in front of their parents. What monsters! Netanyahu's words cut through the assembly as he described the human suffering, and these monsters took more than 250 people hostage, and those included Holocaust survivors, grandmothers, and their grandchildren. Who takes hostage grandmothers and grandchildren? Hamas does. The description drew a sharp picture of the brutality and inhumanity he attributed to Hamas. Providing an update on the ongoing hostage situation, he said, "So far, we've brought home 207 of these hostages, but 48 still remain in the dungeons of Gaza. 20 of them are alive, starved, tortured, deprived of any daylight, deprived of humanity." His voice grew heavier as he listed their names one by one. These are the names of the 20 living hostages: Matan Angris, Gali and Zerv Berman, brothers El Kabot, Roeslavsky, Nimot Cohen, Ariel and David Kuno, another pair of brothers. The solemn recitation personalized the tragedy and underscored the urgency of their plight. Netanyahu's speech combined remembrance with a call for unwavering determination. He painted a picture of Israel as a nation fighting not only for its own survival, but for broader principles of security and civilization. His acknowledgement of the United States' cooperation, particularly the coordinated strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, reflected the depth of the partnership that Israel sees as critical to its defense. At the same time, his repeated warnings about Iran's nuclear ambitions made it clear that he viewed the threat as ongoing and possibly resurgent. The call for the United Nations to reinstate sanctions was a pointed message to the international community that this was not the moment for easing pressure on Tehran. The Prime Minister's invocation of historical memory, linking the October 7th attacks to the horrors of the Holocaust, framed the current conflict in existential terms. By presenting it as a continuation of a historical struggle for the survival of the Jewish people, Netanyahu sought to rally both domestic and international audiences to support Israel's cause. His use of the QR code pin during the speech served as a symbolic gesture, bridging the past and present and inviting the world to bear witness to the atrocities he described. It was an innovative way to engage the audience and ensure that the memory of October 7th would remain accessible and vivid. The address, while heavy with grief and resolve, also reflected Netanyahu's pride in Israel's military resilience. His statement, "Thanks to the resolve of our people, the courage of our soldiers, and the bold decisions we took, Israel rebounded from its darkest day to deliver one of the most stunning military comebacks in history," underscored a narrative of recovery and strength in the face of adversity. Yet he made clear that the story was not yet complete. His insistence that Israel must finish its campaign against Hamas indicated a determination to pursue the conflict to its conclusion, even as he highlighted the tragic human cost. In conclusion, Netanyahu's speech was a blend of historical reflection, current resolve, and urgent warning. It was both a commemoration of victims and a rallying cry for ongoing vigilance. Through his words, he sought to remind the world that Israel's fight was not just about territory or politics, but about survival and justice for the victims of brutality. The Prime Minister's address left the audience with an image of a nation determined to confront its adversaries while honouring the memory of those lost. It was a call to remember the horrors of October 7th and to ensure that such atrocities are neither repeated nor forgotten.